particularly enthusiastic at the prospect of taking on youngsters from the East End, and the raggle-taggle line of children began to fragment as some collapsed on the ground in tears and several others were sick. Probably from fright, Poppy thought, as she eyed their prospective hosts, recalling Mum's last words to her as they had said a tearful goodbye outside the school gates at 5:30 that morning.
"Look at their shoes and their hats, Poppy. Good shoes and a nice hat will mean a clean home and no bedbugs or lice. You be a good girl, wash behind your ears and say your prayers every night before you go to bed. Always remember that your mum and dad love your ducks, and so does Joe, although he ain't always the best at showing his feelings. That goes for your gran and granddad too. We'll all miss you, love."
Poppy said a small prayer now as she met the eyes of a tight-lipped little woman wearing a felt beret and a mean scowl. Her shoes needed a polish and were down at heel. Poppy looked away and moved her gaze down the line until she came upon a smart pair of high-heeled court shoes, two-tone, in brown and cream. Glancing upwards, she noted a jaunty brown velour hat spiked with a long feather that reminded her of a film poster she'd seen of Errol Flynn playing Robin Hood. The face beneath the hat could have been a female version of the film stars, but the woman's expression was neither charming nor kind. Poppy's heart sank a little as she read boredom and indifference in the hazel eyes that stared unblinkingly into her own. But the shoes were good, and the hat was quite new. The woman wore a well-cut tweed costume with a gold brooch on the lapel. Poppy did her best to smile. The lady in the Robin Hood hat turned to the billeting officer.
"What's the name of that one?"
She waved her hand vaguely in Poppy's direction. Mr. Walker scanned the list on his clipboard, but he frowned as if confused by the names and ages of the children. He moved a step closer to Poppy. "What's your name, dear?"
"Poppy Brand, sir."
"Poppy," he said with an attempt at a smile. "Named after the flower, were you, dear?"
"No, mister. I was called Poppy after me mum's favourite perfume from Woolies, Californian Poppy."
The smart lady cast her eyes up to heaven. "My God, what an accent." She looked Poppy up and down. "But she does look the cleanest of the bunch, and she's old enough to be useful. She'll do." "You're a lucky girl, Poppy Brown." Mr. Walker took her by the shoulder and gave her a gentle shove towards her benefactress. "You must be very grateful to Mrs. Carroll, and I hope you'll behave like a good girl at Squire's Nap."
"Follow me, child."
Mrs. Carroll strode away towards a large black car, her high heels tip-tapping on the concrete, and as the feather in her hat waved in the breeze, it seemed to be beckoning to Poppy. She followed obediently, but shied away in fright as a big man dressed entirely in black, from his peaked cap to his shiny leather boots, leapt forward to open the car door.
"Don't loiter, girl," Mrs. Carroll said impatiently. "Get in the car."
Poppy glanced up at the chauffeur, but he was staring straight ahead of him. She climbed into the back seat and made herself as small as possible in the far corner. The unfamiliar smell of the leather squabs, coupled with annoying hunger that caused her stomach to rumble, made her close her eyes as a wave of nausea swept over her. The jam sandwiches that Mum had made in the early hours of the morning had all been eaten before the train got to the Elephant and Castle. She'd saved the piece of ginger cake until last, but she'd shared it with the small girl from the infants class whose nose was permanently dripping with candles of mucus that grew longer each time she opened her mouth to howl.
"We'll go straight home, Jackson," Mrs. Carroll said in a bored tone. "I've changed my mind about going to the library."
The car picked up speed as they left the village, and a cool breeze coming through the open window revived Poppy to the point where she could open her eyes. She craned her neck to look out of the window.
"You're very small," Mrs. Carroll said,
lighting a cigarette that she had just fitted into a green onyx holder.
"How old are you?"
She inhaled with obvious pleasure and exhaled slowly as she replaced the gold cigarette case and lighter in her handbag. Poppy was impressed. Her dad smoked cigarettes.